Using 7.0 for the past couple weeks, the biggest change for daily use for me has been the notifications, for sure. The grouping, the more info, the quick replies, the quick settings, all of that stuff. Particularly the way notifications are organized has had the biggest impact. They're all grouped together now, which means if you get multiple notifications from the same app, they all bundle together, and then you can separate them out when you want to take action on them. So like Gmail uses this really well. And messaging apps will all do the same thing. No matter how many emails you get, you can interact with them one by one in your notifications. You can reply to one at a time. You can delete one at a time, read them one by one. It's like a whole new app up there. And then the quick settings up top are easy to get used to also. They're really convenient and quick to get to. And you can choose exactly which controls show up here in the quick settings too. So if you use the flashlight a lot, you can put it up there in the top. Or if you switch to night mode a lot, you can move that up too. All of this is customizable, which is really nice. Now, the second big change that I noticed in everyday use is definitely the double tapping multitasking window to quick switch. I used it a lot. It's one of those things where you start to love it and then you really miss it on other phones. It just saves a lot of time and is convenient, and it just works. So that's good too. Split screen multitasking is another big addition. You hold the multitasking button, pick another app, and you get in. But I didn't really use this that much. So it's been built into so many other phones that I guess it made sense to build it into stock Android too. So now bigger phones can feel like mini tablets, and you can have multiple apps open at the same time in portrait or in landscape. But I didn't really use this much in the LG or Samsung phones that did this beforehand, so now I also didn't use it much with the NEXUS. But if you are a person that used it a lot in those other phones, then you'll be happy to see it here. And then one of the biggest behind the scenes changes in Android 7.0 is in the battery life department, with those on the go. So you know how tablets have some parts of the day where they're being used a lot heavily for like all types of media, but then other parts of the day when they're really not being used that much and they're just on a shelf somewhere. When they're not being used much, they go into this low power state, and that's called doze. Now Android 7.0 brings what they're calling doze on the go, which should let your phone go into this low power state when it's not being used. So times like when it's sitting on a couch or in your pocket or something and it knows it's not being woken up, then in theory, it'll save battery the same way a tablet does. I personally haven't noticed a huge boost in battery on my Nexus 6P from when I was using Marshmallow, but again, that was just the public beta, so we'll keep testing that and hopefully it does get better. And there's a bunch of other smaller things that really bring together Android 7.0 as a complete update. There's a bunch of new updated emojis that all look slightly more human-like. There's virtual reality support built in for when we start seeing more Daydream-compatible hardware, and the JIT compiler and the Vulkan API for gaming performance for the apps that will support it. The update process is better, boot times are faster. You can now log in with facial recognition by adding a trusted face, which is interesting. And you can also now mess around with the DPI settings with a setting called display size to make this appear larger or appear smaller throughout the whole UI. There's even now keyboard themes where you can use an existing one that's built in with new color schemes from light to dark colors, or you can even make your own out of an image you have in your gallery. And maybe weirdest of all, the Easter egg is a little more weird. It lets you bring a cat bowl to the quick settings and leave out a snack of your choice to catch a little cat. It's kind of weird. Yeah. Oh, and at the end of this